If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, Boomer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast, and we've got ourselves an excellent podcast today as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Mid-Major Matt, a.k.a. Matt Joseph. So you know him from his work over at ESPN Radio in Richmond. He does a tremendous job with the Prop Queen podcast as well. He's going to be joining me. We're going to be talking about what we've seen on the prop front here in the first 6 weeks of the season. Teams are in a little bit of transition, the way that he gauges Thursdays as opposed to other days of the week, because you do get a lot of travel spots here as well. You get a lot of getaway games, so we're going to be chatting about that and so much more. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Now, I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but everything that is brought to you by EdgeBoost. Over at EdgeBoost, they're making sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 on leap years, 366 days out of the year, because with this account, there are no restrictions or anything like that. All of your gambling-related transactions, they get approved 100% of the time. And when you go to edgeboost.bet and utilize the promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G, you get a $1 match on your first $25 deposit. That is edgeboost.bet, promo code G-R-E-G. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Wednesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The league's top over team just continues to overwhelm. About 70% of Miami Marlins games at home since the beginning of the 2024 season. I've went over the total, and the Dodgers, they pounded the tar out of the Miami Marlins by a kind of 10-1. As for the LA Dodgers, they really didn't get anything going off of Valentin Beloso. Beloso, 5 1/3 innings, allows 1 hit, and then from there, that's where things went down the toilet bowl. Cade Gibson, he allows a run in an inning. That's not too bad, but then Tyler Phillips gives up 3 runs in an inning. He did give up a home run as going deep for the Dodgers. James Outman, he was out, man. First home run of the season. Ronnie Enriquez, 4 outs on the bullpen squirrels, but Lake McCarr, he gave up 6 runs and he got 1 out. That's not great, to say the least. And for Landon Knack, he had a knack for getting out 5 scoreless innings out of him. Matt Sauer allows an unearned run in his 4 innings of work. So the LA Dodgers, they do get the job done, and the Marlins is this season 24-12 overall to the over. The Sacramento A's have played north of 60% of their home games to the over, 6-5. The Seattle Mariners rally and they get the job done as the A's were up in this game by a count of 5-0, and then that went into the abyss as Brian Wu said boo to a bad start. 5 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, and he allowed Lawrence Butler to take him deep. 6th home run in the campaign, but from there, Edward Bizarro, Gabe Spire combined for 2 scoreless innings. Andres Munoz, a scoreless inning, and Rowdy Tellez, he goes deep off of Mitch Spence, home run number 5 of the campaign for Gunnar Hoglund. Pretty solid start, 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Spence gives up that home run, 2 runs in total in 2/3 of an inning. TJ McFarland, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Justin Sterner, he gets out of the bullpen scoreless. Grant Holman, scoreless inning, but Noah Murdoch, 2 runs allowed in an inning, and he now is a 13.24 ERA coming out of the bullpen. A little bit less than savory, to say the least. The St. Louis Cardinals have been one of your better over teams in all of baseball, but they hit the under because they did a nice job of holding down the Buccos. 5-0 the final. As for St. Louis, Sonny Gray was tremendous. 7 scoreless innings allowed. Just hits. Kyle Leahy, Chris Roycroft, they both ended scoreless inning. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Mitch Keller gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings. Didn't really allow a lot of super hard contact, but just a lot of general contact. Caleb Ferguson from there allows 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Ryan Barucki is scoreless inning, and Colin Holderman and out of the bullpen scoreless, but nothing doing for those Buccos bats. And for the Chicago Cubs, they're the top run run-scoring team in all of baseball this season, but nothing doing against Robbie Ray and company. 3-1, the San Francisco Giants get the job done as Robbie Ray pretty good in this one. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Camilo Duvall, Tyler Rogers, Ryan Walker all lend a scoreless inning for the Giants. They go 4 of 17 with men in scoring position as Ben Brown allows 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, you had a pair of guys in Drew Pomeranz along Gavin Hollowell combined for a scoreless inning. Julian Merriweather, Chris Flexen, Brad Keller, they all lend a scoreless inning, but nothing doing for the Cubs at the plate. A whole heck of a lot doing for the Astros late, though, as they take it to the Milwaukee Brewers. This by kind of 9-1. As for the Brew Crew, just not a lot doing in this game off of Framber Valdez, who allowed a solo home run over the course of 7 innings, as Eric Haas gets home run number 2 of the campaign, and Quinn Pricer allows 3 runs in 5 innings, but only 1 of which was earned. There were a pair of errors out there in the field that hurt him, but you had from there Elvin Rodriguez, who has been about as big of a fade as it gets, giving up 6 runs in 3 1/3 innings, including a home run to Jeremy Pena, number 5 of the campaign, Tyler Alexander. From there gives you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and Brian Abreu, Josh Hader. They close the door with scoreless 8th and 9th innings for the Houston Astros. The Cleveland Guardians, they've been a pretty solid over team thus far this season. 20 overs, 15 unders, and 2 pushes, and they take it to the Washington Nationals. This by a count of 8-6. Mike Soroka just has not been able to find it. 4 runs allowed in 5 innings. You had from there Orde Lopez give up 3 runs without getting a single out. 1 run given up in an inning by Andrew Chafin. Cole Henry was able to lend 3 scoreless innings, but with the Washington Nationals, they left 15 men on base, and for the Cleveland Guardians, it was not a long start for Logan Allen, gives up 3 runs over the course of 4 innings, and he did have Matthew Fessel give up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning as well, but the rest of the bullpen pieces pretty rock solid. Tim Aaron, Hunter Gaddis combined for a scoreless inning, Kate Smith, and out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Kobe Allard, Emmanuel Clase, Joey Cantillo. They're all able to lend a scoreless inning to be able to get that one to the window. Also being able to get to the window, you had the New York Mets be able to get the job done by a count of 7-1 against the Orioles and the Diamondbacks. For the Snakes, not a lot doing. Alpha Kodai Senga, who did walk 5, but 6 scoreless innings. From there, Max Chronic gives up a solo home run in his 1 1/3 innings. Coben Carroll gets home run number 11 of the season, but Oscar Brzobin, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Ryan Stanek, a scoreless inning, and for the Orioles and the Diamondbacks, Merrill Kelly gives up 3 runs in 6 1/3 innings, including a home run going deep for the Metropolitans. Juan Soto twice. So in the final game of their set against the Orioles and the Diamondbacks, and both of them in the last 2 weeks, he's had a 2 home run game. This is number 6 and 7 of the campaign, as he would go deep a little bit later on against Jalen Beeks, who gave up a solo home run in 1 1/3 innings, and you had 3 runs given up in 1 1/3 innings as well by Jose Castillo. And for the New York Metropolitans, they were able to get a nice win out there. We've got quite a few games that are just wrapping up as I'm doing this podcast. I do have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, and you did see the Texas Rangers fall to the Boston Red Sox, but the Rangers have been your top under team in all of baseball going into the day on Wednesday. 11 overs to 25 unders. They do just enough to make things overwhelming, as they were able to get a Josh Young home run in the 9th inning off of Aroldis Chapman to be able to do so. As for Chapman, gives up that home run in his inning of work, and Tanner Houck, not long for this game, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, given up by him, as he did allow a home run to Odolis Garcia, 5th home run of the campaign, and for Young, his 3rd home run of the season. But the rest of the bullpen, pretty solid. Brandon Bernardino, Greg Weiser, they both under scoreless inning. Justin Wilson, far outside the bullpen scoreless, and you had a trio of home runs for Boston, as Weiler Abreu goes deep off of both Tyler Mahle and Caleb Belsley, the pride of Hortonville, Wisconsin. Home runs number 8 and 9 of the season, and Alex Bregman, home run number 9 of the season. That also comes off of Mahle, who gave up 2 solo home runs over the course of his 5 innings of work. Our guy Caleb gave up a solo home run in an inning of work. Robert Garcia, scoreless inning, and then Jacob Webb, Hobie Milner, they combine for an inning. They give up 3 runs along the way. For the Tampa Bay Rays, just something doing against the Phillies. I'm doing this as it's in the top of the 9th. The Phillies were able to get to Shane Baz, currently up by a count of 7-0. And for the Baz, he gave up 6 runs in 3 1/3 innings. Manuel Rodriguez gives up a run and an inning. Cole Sulzer, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. Edwin Uceta, Garrett Clevenger come in for a scoreless inning, and they threw Pete Fairbanks in a 7-0 game. And then Goodness for Sanchez, 1 hit allotted, 6 scoreless innings. Taiwan Walker from there able to fill some long relief, so they were able to do a rock solid job on that front. We do not know how the Angels versus Blue Jays game went at the time of recording, and this one is still going on, but it's right now a total gong show out there in Colorado as I'm recording this. 5-3 through 3 innings. Jackson Jobe has been lit up like a Christmas tree, giving up home runs to Ryan McMahon and Michael Taglia, both of their 4th home runs of the season. Chase Dollander has given up 3 runs over the course of his 3 innings as well. That's in the bottom of the 3rd, and you're seeing the scoring that you're getting, so good, clean family fun out there for the Minnesota Twins right now. They're putting on the looks like final touches on the Baltimore Orioles, currently up by a count of 3-2 after 7 innings. And for Charlie Morton, he continues to be not great, gives up 3 runs over the course of 4 innings, including a home run. Byron Buxton, 9th home run of the season. Ever since then, bullpen has been able to hold down the fort with Brian Baker, Sir Anthony Dominguez, lending scoreless innings, and Simeon Woods Richardson did allow a home run to Ramon Laureano, 4th home run of the campaign. So we shall see how that game is going to be going. As of right now, it looks like the Chicago White Sox are going to get just dusted off by the Kansas City Royals 2-0 the final in this one, as Michael Wacha, 7 scoreless innings. Lucas Erceg, he was able to strike out the side in his scoreless innings, and then Carlos Aceves, he's able to shut the door. And Jonathan Cannon, not a bad start here. He does allow a home run to Bobby Witt Jr., 5th home run of the campaign, but 6 innings allows 2 runs. And from there, Tyler Gilbert, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Caleb Freeman was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen as well. And for the Kansas City Royals, this has been a really good under team thus far this season, with the under that we saw on Wednesday. Now 12 overs, 25 unders, and a push. So they're going to be right there with the Texas Rangers in terms of top under team in all of baseball. Right now in the 9th inning, it is the Reds on top of the Atlanta Braves, 4-3, so they're going to look to close that thing out after Hunter Green was only able to go 3 innings in this one. He had 6 strikeouts, and he only gave up 2 hits, no runs. This was not a case where he got pulled due to bad performance. He had to leave the game early, and ever since then, the Cincinnati Reds have piecemealed things together. Brent Suter, 2 scoreless innings. Scott Barlow did give up 2 runs in a third of an inning, but Taylor Rogers, pair of outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. You were able to have Tony Santillan come in for a scoreless inning, and you also had Luis May be able to give you a scoreless inning. Meanwhile, Grant Holmes gives up a pair of home runs to TJ Friedel, his 2nd and 3rd home runs of the campaign. 4 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Aaron Bummer, 5 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Dylan Lee, Angel De Los Santos, they're both able to supply a scoreless inning. And going into the 9th inning, it was 3-3 between the Padres and the New York Yankees. Padres did get up 3-1 in this game, as Jackson Merrill, fresh off the injured list, goes deep off of Max Fried, 4th home run season. And for Max Fried, another absolutely magnificent start. He gives up 1 run in 7 innings. For Max Fried, he has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in every one of his starts this year. Now, he did give up 6 total runs against the Brewers. There were only 2 earned because there were a billion errors behind him, but this guy's been absolutely magnificent. And Dylan Cease was as well. 6 2/3 innings. He allows a solo home run, as going deep off of him, Cody Bellinger, 5th home run of the campaign. And as I'm recording this, the Yankees have 3 runs on 2 hits, by the way, because Jason Adam walked a guy and then gave up a home run to Trent Grisham, 10th home run of the campaign. For Luke Weaver, he got a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but Ian Hamilton allowed a pair of runs for the New York Yankees, so we shall see how that game is going to matriculate. As I had to do this a little bit early, I had date night, and we want to stay out of the doghouse here, so hopefully you can appreciate that, and hopefully you can appreciate what we're seeing in baseball right now, because it has been a little bit of an underwhelming season thus far. Right around about 51.5% of games have gone under the total, with a few results pending for Wednesday. We have seen 268 unders to 252 overs. Meanwhile, moneyline favorites hitting at a little bit over 60%, 325 and 215 on the money line this season. But over the last 7 days, favorites have won just 46 and 41 on the money line. That's about 53%, with the under hitting at about 52.3%, 46 unders, 42 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Wednesday. Now let's talk about the games for Thursday, and our good friend Mid-Major Matt is playing the prop market. He's going to be joining me next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as Mid-Major Matt. You might know him better as Matt Josephs. He does a tremendous job taking a look at this great game of baseball. I know that he is doing some great work over at the show Border to Border. That's for ESPN Radio in Richmond, doing a great job with the Prop Queen podcast as well, doing great work with Ariel Epstein over there, and so much more. You're able to follow him on Twitter /X at Mid-Major Matt all together. And Matt, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
No problem. As always, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me, Matt. And Matt, it has been a very wild ride this far this season in baseball. We're about 6 weeks in, and I want to just get your thoughts as to what we are all seeing in baseball, because we've seen a lot of teams that, in terms of what we were seeing in previous years of them, have very much gone reverse with regards to some of their trends with regards to prop market this season.
The Orioles messed up this offseason by thinking that Charlie Morton was the answer for the rotation and Kyle Gibson. And I know that Sugano is finally starting to pitch better, but Baltimore is really messing up a unit and a group that deserves better starting pitching. I mean, this rotation is not good enough, and especially in a division like this where you've got the Yankees who spend and the Red Sox who spend, the Blue Jays are capable of spending, and the Rays always have great prospects waiting. Baltimore just not bringing in any good starting pitching this year. They're in last, and look, they're only 5 out, so it's definitely not over. But I just don't know where Baltimore is going to find some starting pitching unless they trade some of that young core and get some solid starters in there. The Orioles have been a disappointment. I think the Braves have been a disappointment so far, but I think as somebody who has some money on them to win the division, because I still think they're the best team in the division once they get Ronald Acuna back, kind of expected the slow start for the Braves, but we're starting to finally see what Atlanta was supposed to be before the season began.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that you bring up something so interesting with the Orioles, and that, man, that starting pitching is just absolutely awful thus far this season. And I think that it's so interesting to take a look at that AL East, because I thought that the Orioles were probably not going to be like number 1 or number 2 in the division, but I expected a whole heck of a lot more than this, and they have been one of the biggest disappointments in all baseball.
It's one of those things where they almost have to score 6 or 7 runs every night. I mean, Dean Kremer has been a massive disappointment. Cade Povich, he's young. He's not where he's supposed to be yet, so that's not great. And then, you bring up a Kyle Gibson who's not going to do much. And then you have a guy like Charlie Morton who's already probably been taken out of the rotation. As I said, Sugano is starting to pitch better, and he's eating innings, so that way the bullpen has to pitch less. But, this is just not good when you've got Adley Rutschman, and you've got a Gunnar Henderson, and you've got all these young guys who are really good, Westberg, and some of the other guys that are in that lineup, but they've got to score 5-6 runs a night. And outside of maybe the Dodgers or the Yankees, you're just not going to win a lot of games, having to win a lot of shootouts, essentially, and high-scoring affairs.
Yep, no doubt about it. That is going to make things very difficult, but we are going to see what is going to be happening on that front, as we've got ourselves a lot to be able to decipher here from the first 6 weeks of the season. And just how have you been taking a look at some of these K-props? Because we noticed towards the middle of April, latter part of April, scoring was way down, but it seems like we're seeing a big giant surge over the last week and a half in terms of scoring.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is it's starting to get warmer. The wind is blowing out in certain places now. On Tuesday, the wind was blowing in at Wrigley, and it was really cold, but we're still seeing a lot of runs there. I just think we're starting to see now it's going to start to heat up. And once we get to June and July and we start seeing those 90-degree days, and who knows, there's always those little stories that we find out later that the baseballs have been changed, and then, they're baseballs that are more hitting conducive than they were early on. I'm sure we'll find something out like that, in August or September, that Rob Manfred did this or that. But we're starting to get teams also, some of the cold hitters are starting to get hot a little bit. So it's usually expected once the weather starts turning that the runs start coming.
Yep, no question about it. As joining me on the show, we do have one of our good friends, Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And we do have ourselves a lot of fun to be able to dive in on with regards to the slate on Thursdays. We're going to have ourselves actually a double dip with regards to the Tigers and the Colorado Rockies as well, which that's going to be a lot of good, clean family fun. And additionally, we do have ourselves this interesting game between the Orioles and the Twins, as you were just bringing up the Orioles, and they're going to have Dean Kremer on the bump going up against Joe Ryan. And just how do you approach a guy like Dean Kremer at this point, who he's been a big giant fave for me, and I'm not sure how you've played Joe Ryan, but he's a guy that I like to back at home, a guy that I like to fade on the road, because on the road it just feels like he gives up a bunch of bombs, and that Twin Stadium out there at Target Field just seems to suit him very well.
Yeah, I'm looking at usually fading Dean on the road. I mean, he's had 4 terrible outings on the road. And even his 5th outing, he's had 5 outings on the road. His 5th outing, he didn't necessarily give up a ton of runs, but he gave up 8 hits and 4 1/3 innings. So certainly I'll be looking potentially at his outs under maybe. Look, the books have been struggling to try and figure out what to make his K-prop number. Anything around 4.5, and I'm certainly looking under, maybe even a 3.5. The Twins make a lot of contact. I mean, this is a team that has gone under. The Twins, as of doing this, 22 unders, 7 overs against right-handed starting pitching, averaging just 3.82 strikeouts per game in those certain situations. Now, as I always like to say when I come on here, this is an afternoon game. This is a game where we might see nope, Minnesota stays home, but the Orioles will be traveling, so you might see a little bit of a different lineup, a backup catcher or two, which is always bad for the K-props because usually the backup catchers strike out a lot. So certainly if you're going to make any sort of wager in this game, please take a look at what you're going to get beforehand in terms of the lineup. But I would look at some sort of Twins K-prop under here if we get a lot of the starters.
Yep, I think that that's a very good look there. And I always think that it's a little bit tricky to be gauging things on Thursday because you know as well as myself, for a lot of teams, it's a getaway day. And how does your strategy change a little bit with regards to K-props on Thursday as opposed to, say, like a Tuesday or Wednesday where you don't have as many teams going away?
Usually you kind of look at your numbers. You know, Ariel and I have a spreadsheet that has all the numbers, and you maybe make a slight adjustment, maybe add another one to it potentially because of the backups. And so there's two ways to kind of figure it. I usually play my stuff in the morning because I like to get the best numbers and things like that. And usually that occurs in the morning, but you can wait till closer to first pitch. When the lineups come out, just know that you may not get necessarily the best number or the best juice in that sort of situation. You know, so that's kind of how I handle the getaway games. And I also try and make my cards a little bit smaller. It feels like the quote unquote weirder results happen on the Thursdays or the Sundays or the Mondays, depending upon wraparound series, occasionally Tuesdays, stuff like that. So, you know, I kind of take a look at that sort of situation and make slight adjustments to my K-prop numbers based off of the lineups and how many times. Look, there are certain teams, the Orioles, notably, ask a lot of Orioles fans. They have surrender lineups on Sunday, which feature a lot of backups. And so those are the times when I'm kind of looking at K-prop overs because of the fact that they like playing some of their bench guys on Sundays. If you know those tendencies for those managers, that helps you out a little bit as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that that's so important to be taking note of because there are some teams that they rest a bunch of guys on these getaway days. There are other teams in which they let their guys go. And especially this time of year as well. I'm not sure how you gauge it, but I think that's much more important towards the summer months because you'll get a few guys that get a day off here in early May, but it really becomes more rampant towards those summer months once you reach like game 100 plus in the season.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things, especially for playoff teams. It's never too early to start resting starters, you know, guys like Freddie Freeman or Shohei or Aaron Judge or whatever, you know, for the few times some of those guys may come out of the lineup. You'll see that a little bit later on because a day saved in July might end up helping out a little bit in August. It might help out a little bit in September and certainly in the postseason because that's a little less wear and tear. Maybe somebody goes to the DH when they're playing in the field. So it's just one of those things where you kind of want to make sure on those days that the lineup you're going to get is the lineup you expect. And if you get any sort of changes, either be ready to buy out of your prop if you're a morning bettor or just kind of ride with it and try and maybe do something live in game.
And I'm so glad that you bring up the Dodgers because you've got Yoshinobu Yamamoto who's going to be on the bump on Thursday going against Brandon Pfaadt. And we're doing this as we don't have numbers up on the board in this game. But how do you take a look at Yamamoto's what he's put together this season? Because in my opinion, he needs to be a front runner for the NL Cy Young, and this guy has been absolutely tremendous as far as the season.
Yeah, it's so funny because they really eased him into the year. A couple of 5-inning starts against the Tigers and in that Cubs series, they kind of kept him, and they've been really good for the most part at keeping him around 90-something pitches. He's gone over 100 twice, and then afterwards they're kind of pulling back a little bit on him with the 5-inning start against the Pirates. That's always something to kind of look at here is how teams treat certain starters. We've talked about in the past. There are certain guys that they do not mind leaving out there to kind of make sure they get their innings and their pitches in, a guy like Patrick Corbin or a guy usually like Cal Quantrill. But Yamamoto, it feels like they have a certain plan in mind. They want to keep him around 90 pitches, whether he's pitching great or not. So that's something to kind of look at here. And this is a pretty big series. I mean, look, the Diamondbacks are certainly a threat. It's a lineup that is certainly pretty good. You look at what Yamamoto has done against them. He saw them twice last year, faced them once in Arizona, once at home, two drastically different starts. He was actually better in Arizona than he was at home against Arizona. So it'll be interesting to see. This is an Arizona team that needs to start to make a little bit of a run, being in fourth place of this division right now.
Yep, they certainly do. And I do think that this is going to be a fun one to look at. And especially with regards to that Dodgers versus Diamondbacks game, that entire West, San Francisco Red Rockies, who they're going to be playing 2 on Thursday, which most likely means that they're going to have 2 losses to their ledger. Yeah, it's been relatively rough for them, to say the least. And I do think that's going to be fun what we see in terms of the Rays game as they're going to be going up against the Philadelphia Phillies. Jesus Luzardo is going to be going for the Phillies. And how have you gauged him? Because I know that you're a little bit of a Phillies fan out there. And for the Phillies, they've had some ups and downs this year, and I think that you'd agree with me. Jesus Luzardo has been one of the best finds of the season.
Yeah, and even when Luzardo doesn't have his best stuff, he's still battling. That Arizona game, he didn't necessarily have his best stuff, but he battled. He kept them in the game. He kept the lead there. And he's a guy that, the worry, I think, will come later on in the season after last year, being injured. I think he's still very fresh right now, and I think they're still going to look at his innings. But I think once we get towards July, I think they might start cutting it back a little bit, maybe giving him an extra day rest here and there. He's going up against a Rays team that has kind of been all over the place when it comes to the K-props. They're averaging 5 strikeouts per game against left-handed starting pitchers. But, this is because of a guy like Carlos Rodon had 9, Max Fried had 6 against him, Eduardo Rodriguez had 5. So some of the better lefties have been able to get strikeouts. And of course, we go back to that opening day when Kyle Freeland had 7 strikeouts against, that's like 15 for normal pitchers. So that's something to kind of look at when you look at the Rays.
Yeah, boy, with the Rays, it's been so interesting to gauge them as well, because that when they were playing out there in the Trop, they were one of the best home under teams in all of baseball. And now that they're playing out there at Steinbrenner Stadium, how do you gauge this team? Because it has been a little bit different with regards to their offense, as it's very much elevated out there in Steinbrenner Stadium.
Yeah, and this is a team now that they're playing outside. You always have to be careful of the pop-up showers and the pop-up storms. And the toughest part of handicapping games in Tampa Bay is that sometimes these storms come out of nowhere. That's where you got to go to your favorite weather place or make sure to always check the weather. We never had to worry about this. This was the Dome, and while the Dome wasn't necessarily built the best, we were pretty confident that the roof was going to keep the rain out. So now you have to look at that sort of situations, and if you have pop-up storms, you either make a smaller bet hoping that the weather comes, or you just skip over the bet, and that because you're not going to take many overs if you know that your starting pitcher might have his outing stopped because of rain. So that's always something you have to look at now when it comes to Tampa Bay, because pop-up showers are a real thing in July and August in Florida.
And you never know, and that takes out a pitcher with regards to this K-prop as well, because you have like that 1 hour rain delay. They can't come back out because it's just long enough for them to not be able to go back out there. So very well said there. And is there anything else that you might be taking a look at on the card for Thursday? As we're going to have 9 games in total now, because that Tigers versus Rockies game is now a double dip. But that said, anything else that is popping up? Because I've just been really loving the unders in these Royals games, and Chris with K. Bubich has been a guy that I've been backing quite a bit.
Yeah, Chris Bubich has been fantastic so far this season. I expect him to continue that on Thursday. I'll be interested to see, look, Spencer Schwellenbach has kind of underperformed in my mind. 1-3 with a 3.92 ERA after the way he was last year. I thought he was, look, I'll admit, I put, $1 down on him to win the Cy Young. It was like 60-1, 70-1. It was a longer shot. I thought maybe there was a chance of him being kind of nasty this year, and he hasn't been so far. And so we know it's there. How much of it is last year, everybody got to look at him. People have a better idea about him now. Maybe some of his off-speed pitches aren't necessarily working. And Nick Lodolo is a guy I have not been able to figure out so far this season. I think I've played 2 props. I've been on the complete opposite side of both of them. He's pitched well one time when I thought he wouldn't, and he wouldn't pitch well one time I thought he would. He's facing against the Braves lineup that I think is doing pretty well. So I can't really make a prediction on that game because, as I said, I just don't know what to expect from Lodolo so far this season. But Schwellenbach should be doing a lot better than he is. Maybe this is one of these outings at home where he shows up against a Reds team that we know can certainly strike out. Speaking of strikeouts, the Angels, this is a team that strikes out a ton right now. They are on quite the stretch. They have gone over 19 times, 12 unders. They're averaging over 6 strikeouts per game against right-handed starting pitchers. You know that, you're going to get some good pitching when it comes to Bassett, but how is he going to handle the road situation here? We're going to get a high number. We're going to get a 5.5. There's a chance we might get a 6.5 here. So you just have to be ready and decide whether or not you think he's going to go over a high number against a team that's striking out a lot right now.
Yep, they have been striking out a lot this season, and we've got ourselves a good slate of baseball that's going to be coming up on Thursday. And what makes it better is being able to break it down with you, Matt, as I know that you're doing some excellent work on a variety of different platforms. I know that you've been doing some great work with Ariel Epstein over there at ESPN Radio in Richmond, and so much more. So a lot of good people at home know it's all on tap for you, and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. I post all my props and everything. I post records, full transparency all the way through. I'm tracked on the Action Network app, so no one can question me. We're doing all right so far this season. Ups and downs. It's a long year, so there's going to be some hot and cold stretches. And yes, I'm on Ariel's podcast on Mondays and Fridays, breaking down the card. And so certainly I know a lot of people potentially ask you about first threes, first fives, anything else that's involved with games. I'm certainly here to help at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter because we all have the same goal. We all want to beat the books.
Yes, we certainly do. And one of the best at being able to do so is our good friend Matt, as he does such an excellent job on so many different fronts. And he is so good on the college sports front as well. So a big thanks to Matt for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VC Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Matt Josephs, better known as Mid-Major Matt. He does such an excellent job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. And every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So big thanks to Matt for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_D1, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So let's get things started with 901, 902 on the betting board. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we are into Cincinnati. They're onto the road. They're facing off against the Atlanta Braves. Spencer Schwellenbach is on the bump for the Bravos, and Nick Lodolo is on the bump for the Reds. And the Reds do find themselves anywhere between plus 140 to plus 145 underdogs, and between minus 158 to minus 166. That number on the Bravos. And the balance game is 7.5 over is minus 115. Under is minus 105, and right now with that run line, find that anywhere between a plus 130 to a plus 135 on the Atlanta Braves. And as long as I could get north of a plus 130, I would be willing to take a shot on this run line. As for Schwellenbach, it has been a little bit of a rough go of it. He has given up 3+ runs in now each out of his last 4 starts, but I believe that he's a better pitcher than this. He's got an ERA hovering right around about 3.95, but that fielding independence more around a 3.93. He's only giving up 1.5 walks per 9 innings. Isn't really getting taken deep. Giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, still generating a little bit north of 8 strikeouts per 9. Those advanced numbers tell me that things are going to be just fine with him. And for Nick Lodolo, even though he's posting up a career low 3.27 ERA, I'm a little bit concerned about him. He's not getting as much swing and miss as he used to. Had 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings or more each of his first 3 seasons in the league, and 7 starts into the season, just 6.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. It's really reduced on the walks. First 3 seasons in the big leagues, at least 2.6 walks per 9 innings. That's down to less than 2 walks per 9 innings this season, and he's backed up by a relatively solid bullpen. Emilio Pagan is just a guy that I don't have faith in because of what he's done in his past stops. But that said, you've got someone like Tony Santillan who's been rock solid, and to send Alexis Diaz down to the minor league level, that was a little bit less than savory. But you know what? You've got a lot of guys that you're able to mix and match with in the bullpen. Graham Ashcraft has become a relatively good long guy for this team as well, and overall, team is hovering right around 10th in terms of bullpen ERA at a 3.55 for the Atlanta Braves, right around about a league average bullpen at a 3.81. They let go of AJ Minter in the offseason, and Aniel De Los Santos has not necessarily been amazing, but you've been able to get some good innings out of Rocio Iglesias. He's been a solid closer for this team. Desbel Hernandez has been able to step up for this unit, and also stepping up is the Atlanta Braves offense as they began the year relatively rough on that West Coast road trip. Now they're starting to round into form as Marcell Ozuna's giving you that 433 on base, not hitting for as many homers as he did 8 seasons ago, but Austin Riley is up to 8 bombs. He's hitting just below 300. You've been able to get some good production recently out of Nick Allen along with Eli White at the bottom of the fold. Now, do have a few question marks there, but do like what those guys are providing, and Alex Verdugo has been amazing for the team, hitting darn near 300. Not necessarily a super power hitter, but a guy that's able to move the line for you. Meanwhile, for the Cincinnati Reds, this is a unit that has been a top 7 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game on the road. Now, much of that is due to the 24 spot that they put up against the Baltimore Orioles like 2.5 weeks ago, but that said, you've still been able to get some relatively good production out of Kevin Lux, who's hitting nearly a 300 for this team. Austin Hayes going on the injured list was very rough for them, but Elliot De La Cruz, 14 stolen bases, 5 bombs, 350 on base. Love to see that. Matt McClain is giving you the deep ball, but he's only hitting $165. Jameer Candelario has been rough for this team as well, and you do need a little bit more from some of these guys at the bottom, but Neovoli Marte being able to give you a 345 on base, I do think it's rock solid as well. With this money line price, I would need at least a plus 153 to take a shot on the Reds, so anything north of a plus 130. Going to be taking a look at the Atlanta Braves on the run line, and do think that this total set a little bit too low. Schwellenbach has had his issues, and Lodolo, I believe, is doing for some regression, so my total at an 8.3, so almost in on this total over as well. 903, 904 on the betting board. It is the LA Dodgers on the road against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Brandon Pfaadt looks to battle for Arizona, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto is on the bump for the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are a pretty good size favorite, between minus 148 to a minus 162, plus 135 to plus 140 is that number on Arizona, and 8.5 is the total. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. A few places are starting to post up a little bit of a run line price on this one. Right now with the LA Dodgers, I'm finding that run line price at a plus 108, and for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, this guy has been absolutely dominant, and he is worth a run line here. I'd be willing to take a plus 102 or higher with him. For Yamamoto, he's been posting up a sub-2 ERA. His walks per 9 rate has been below 2 ever since he got to Los Angeles and ever since he came over from Japan, and this guy's just been absolutely dealing all season long. 3 earned runs or fewer, give it up in every single one of his starts, and for Brandon Pfaadt, I really like the upside of him, but it does feel like sometimes he just allows a little bit too much general contact, as he's only getting about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Solid 5-2 record this far this season, but 379 ERA, 442 fielding dependent, giving up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. A little bit of a hitter's environment out there in Arizona, and when you have to go up against the LA Dodgers, well, that's a little bit less than tremendous, to say the least. As for the LA Dodgers, they just have so much firepower with this lineup. Shohei Ohtani just continues to do absolutely amazing things for this team, as he's been able to give you just below 400 on base. He's been able to supply the team with about 10 or so home runs this far this season. Teoscar Hernandez up north of 30 RBI already this season, as he's supplied 9 home runs. He's hitting above a 300. Mookie Betts is giving you a 350 on base with 5 home runs, and that's considered a down start to the season, and the team is operating the way that they are with Max Muncy and Michael Conforto, both hitting below $180 and both giving you a combined 3 home runs. So this is a very fearsome team. Freddie Freeman has been very rock solid when he's out there on the field and not dealing with shower incidents. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, dating back to the beginning of the 2024 season, this team is number 1 in the big leagues with regards to run scoring, and you've got Corbin Carroll, who last year was just awful for the team, really firing on all cylinders. He's been able to give the team 10 home runs, supplying about a 350 or so on base, and you just have so many guys on this team that move the line. You've got some of these lesser guys like Alec Thomas, Geraldo Perdomo being a bit north of 265. Pavin Smith has given you north of 400 on base. Ketel Marte was out of the fold for much of the season. He's back. He's now being able to give you that north of 375 on base. Josh Naylor hitting above a 300. And Eugenio Suarez really doesn't give you a lot of average, but has given you 10 home runs this far this season. So I really like the offense of this team. Now, for the Arizona Diamondbacks, the bullpen is a little bit shaky because AJ Puck is currently on the injured list. I know that they've dealt with Kevin Ginkle being in and out of the fold all season long as well. This young guy in Juan Murillo has been able to give you some good innings, as he, Shelby Miller, these 2 guys have been able to give you a sub-250 ERA along Jalen Beeks, but Justin Martinez has been a little bit in and out, and Ryan Thompson has been a bit shaky this season as well. And for the LA Dodgers, you've got Michael Kopech still on the injured list for the team. Blake Trine is currently on the injured list, so they've been having a mix and match in that bullpen, but they've done a really good job of being able to find their bearings. Now it looks like again Ben Kasparis is going to be becoming a little bit more of a starter for this team, so he's probably out of the bullpen for them, but that's at Alex Vesia, Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott, all these guys give you a sub-3 ERA. Do like what they bring to the table, and ever since Evan Phillips got off the injured list, he's been rock solid as well. So interesting circumstance here. Did some I told it at 8.7. I do think that we inevitably see a little bit of regression with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, but I think that the Dodgers take it to Pfaadt, so I'm looking at that run line of the Dodgers and looking at this 8.5 over. 9-5, 9-6 on the betting board. The Minnesota Twins are going to be playing against the Baltimore Orioles. Dean Kramer is on the bump for Baltimore, and Joe Ryan goes for Minnesota, and the state with the smallest drinks in the union. Minnesota is a minus 147 to a minus 155 favorite, plus 130 to plus 137. That number on Baltimore, 8 to 8.5 is the total, and on the 8, Over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is between minus 105 to a minus 110. On the 8.5, the under is minus 125, and the over is plus 105. And set the Orioles at a plus 169 here. If you're looking to lay the run line of Minnesota, you're going to be able to find that in that neighborhood about plus 125, plus 130, and I'd be willing to take a plus 115 or higher on that run line. Now for Joe Ryan, 0 or 1 runs allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts. So let's give it up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, and that's a little bit of a concern when you do go up against a Baltimore Orioles lineup that's been pretty solid this far this season. You could use a little bit more out of Gunnar Anderson, and it's been a bit of an issue, the fact that he began the season on the injured list, very much less than savory there, but Cedric Mullins has been able to do a nice job of stepping up for the team. 7 home runs, worth of 350 on base. Ryan O'Hearn has been able to give you 7 bombs as well. He's been able to do a solid job of moving the line as well, so I do like what I'm seeing on that front. You do have a few guys that are still dealing with injuries, which that hurts you when Ramon Urias, Jordan Westberg, guys like that, Tyler O'Neill are on the injured list. That does cause for guys like Keston Kierstead, who's not had the world's greatest season, Ryan Mountcastle, they need to step up a little bit more, and Adley Rushman has had a rough start to the season as well, but not as rough as pitching as the Baltimore Orioles is right now for Dean Kramer. He's got a 573 ERA, fielding a pen. That's about a half a point lower, but give it up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, fewer than 6 strikeouts per 9. He's getting no deception whatsoever. And for the Orioles, you do have a nice 8th and 9th inning duo in Felix Bautista, Yunier Cano in the bullpen, but getting there is an adventure. Sir Anthony Dominguez has been pretty solid for the team, but Gregory Soto has been awful. Cianel Perez is rocking north of a 9 ERA. And for the Minnesota Twins, this bullpen is neither here nor there. They're about league average in terms of their bullpen ERA. Griffin Jax has not been good for them, to say the least, but Danny Kaluma has been an amazing pickup, ironically enough, from the Orioles last season. Brock and Roll Stewart, he's been rolled a little bit this season, but Yohan Duran, he's got really good stuff. And for this Twins lineup, you're finally getting Royce Lewis back at the fold. My goodness, what a concept. I mean, I'm sure if the wind blows the wrong way on Thursday, he's going to be back on the injured list, because that's the way that goes. But man, that's interesting to say the least. Matt Wallner is indeed on the injured list, and Carlos Correa just needs to step up. He's starting to give you a little bit more, but still hitting below 250 with not a lot of power. You're paying more money than what you're getting from right now. Ty France has honestly been a relatively solid addition for this team. He and Byron Buxton have both been able to do a solid job moving the line. Both of these guys giving north of 255 average. Buxton is up to 8 home runs this season, not giving you a ton of walks, but he's been able to hit about a 265 or so. Harrison Bader has been dealing with a little bit of an injury, but he's still been pretty solid as well. And I do think that for the Minnesota Twins, they go out there, they absolutely take it to the Orioles. And for Joe Ryan, he gives up at home less than a home run per 9 innings. Throughout his career, more like 1.5 home runs per 9 innings on the road. So did somebody tell it at 8.6. I think that the Twins get to the Orioles, so I do like the run line of Minnesota, and I'd like this over. 907, 908 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers hit the road to face off against the Boston Red Sox. Brian Bayo is on the bump for the Sox. Jack Leiter is on the bump for Texas. Texas is a underdog of between plus 114 to a plus 121. Meanwhile, anywhere between minus 130 to minus 135. Then around Boston, 9.5 is the total. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. And with the Sox, set them at a minus 133. So that minus 130 wouldn't want to go too far past it, but I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line for the Texas Rangers. Bottom 4 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They really just have not been able to get anything generated at the plate whatsoever. Wyatt Langford's been good. Wyatt Langford's giving you about a 350 on base. He's done a nice job of being able to put bat to ball as well. And Jack Leiter, I will say, through his first 4 starts of the season, I recognize that his last start was a little bit less than savory, but he looks like an improved pitcher. His walks per 9 rate is still right around 3.5, but he's doing a better job keeping the ball in the yard, giving up just 2 home runs in 17 2/3 innings now since coming off the injured list after 2 really good starts of the season. Yeah, it's been a little bit more, shall we say, shaky. The 6 runs they gave up to Seattle, not necessarily what you do want to see, and he's still a 5-inning guy at best, so that is something that gives you pause, because this Texas Rangers bullpen has not been tremendous thus far this season. As for the Texas Rangers, you've got a closer in Luke Jackson that has not been able to close out anything thus far this season. He's been giving you an ERA that is worth of a 4.5. Robert Garcia has actually been very good in this bullpen, which has been much to my surprise. And then you've also had Hobie Milner and Chris Martin also be able to give you a sub 2.25 ERA, but that said, this is still a bullpen that I don't necessarily want to have a lot of faith in. And then for the rest of the Texas Rangers lineup, I mentioned Wyatt Langford. The other guys have not necessarily been so great this far this season. You've got Jock Peterson, Marcus Semien, Jake Berger. I'll give you a 273 on base or less, all with 3 home runs or less, and all hitting below the Mendoza line 200. Adolis Garcia has been able to give you 4 home runs, but again, not a guy that really moves moves the line for you. Kyle Higashioka and his at-bats has been relatively okay. Getting back Corey Seager should be able to help out, but that's a little bit less than savory. And for the Boston Red Sox, this has been an up-and-down team as far as the season themselves, as they're dealing with the injury to Tristan Casas. So I will say Tristan Casas was not doing anything when he was out there on the field this season, but Alex Bregman, north of a 300 average with 8 home runs entering into yesterday. You've had Weiler Abreu give you 7 bombs, 390 on base. Christian Campbell, 390 on base. Jaron Duran, after a rough start to the season, he's starting to pick it up as well. And Trevor Story, it's been a little bit up and down for him, but he and Rafael Devers both up to 5 bombs, and Devers is back to a 375 on base. I have my pause with this Red Sox bullpen as well, because you've got Aroldis Chapman as your closer, and you never know what's going to go wrong with Aroldis Chapman as your closer. And you've had the likes of a Greg Weiser, who's been thus far this season relatively solid. Lee Maddox seems to be found rounding in form as well. Garrett Woodlock is a nice long guy that I like for them as well, but the likes of Justin Slayton and company have been not great to say the least. So it's a very interesting circumstance with Brian Bayo. He's been a bit all over the place ever since he was actually pretty superb at home during the 2023 season. Had a little bit of fall off last year. Never's going to be one of these guys that just gives you a massive deception or anything like that. He's made 3 starts at 2.55 ERA, and he's in these 3 starts only been able to give you 12 punch-outs in 17 and 2/3 innings, but doing a nice job inducing some soft contact. Fielding independence at 546, so do think that there might be a little bit of regression there, but again, he goes up against a Rangers lineup that has done nothing. So somehow line at 133, I'm willing to go up to a 132 on this Red Sox money line. I made my total 9.2, so at the 9.5, I like the under. 909, 910 on the betting board. It is the Kansas City Royals, and they play us as Chicago White Sox. Davis Martin goes for the Sox, and Chris with the K. Bubich is on the bump for the Royals, and for the Royals, they are massive favorites. You're going to be getting them between minus 228 to a minus 250. Meanwhile, between plus $2 and plus 210, that number on the south side is 8 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And if you are looking to lay a run half with the Kansas City Royals, right now that initial number I'm finding is right around about a minus 118, and I would be willing to go up to a minus 118 here. I wouldn't want to go any further than that, but I would be willing to lay a minus 118 on this run line. I really like what Chris with the K. Bubich has done. Like, this guy was looking like a big giant flopperoonie after he was first round pick coming out of Stanford and everything like that, but for Chris with the K. Bubich, perhaps all that he needed was a year in the bullpen last season, because he has come back completely reborn. His swing and miss stuff has been great. 9 punch-outs per 9 innings. He's keeping the ball in the yard, allowing 2 home runs in 41 innings across 7 starts thus far this season. So he has been able to be absolutely stellar with that regard. I will say he's given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts, but I do think that he's going to hold it down against a Chicago White Sox team that is in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You've had Andrew Vaughn and Luis Robert just not be able to move the line whatsoever for this team. Both of these guys hitting below a 212, so that's not necessarily amazing. Lennon Sosa's been able to hit about a 250, so yay, verily there, but you just don't have a lot of guys in general that are finding a way to be able to move the line. Andrew Benintendi has been able to do a solid job, but Andrew Benintendi over the last few days has been dealing with an injury as well, and that's not good for this team. You've had the young backup catcher and Edgar Quiero actually be relatively okay for the team. He's hitting just below 300 in a small sample size, so you do like to see that, but you know, Michael A. Taylor hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. I think Brooks Baldwin has been just a little bit of a surprise with hitting a 250, but he's not giving you any power whatsoever. And for the Chicago White Sox, this is a bullpen that's pretty shaky themselves, as you got this bullpen that has Steven Wilson, who's been able to supply a sub-3 ERA, but past that, it's just a whole bunch of schlubs at this point. Tyler Gilbert, Brandon Eisert, Frazier Allard, Penn Murphy, all these guys giving north of 4 ERA. And I like Penn Murphy when he was with the Seattle Mariners a few seasons ago, but they just have not been able to find it in general. They trotted out there Mike Clevenger as a reliever to begin the season. Boy, oh boy, that was not great, and I think that he actually got sent down to the minor league level. He's been that awful, so less than savory there. And then on the flip side, you've got a Kansas City Royals team that has been less than savory at the plate as well. They are a bottom 4 team with regards to runs per game. They were able to get it going over the weekend against the Baltimore Orioles, and you do have Vinny Pasquantino, who's been able to give you 6 home runs. Vinny P, though, is sitting right around the middle side of 200, less than a 275 on base. Bobby Witt Jr., he's been able to give you north of a 380 on base, so he's been solid there. Miguel Garcia is hitting above 300. Drew Waters starting to give you a bit of something, but I mean, Salvador Perez goes into yesterday with 2 2 home runs, just very uncharacteristic of him. Jonathan India has had a little bit of a tough time moving the line as well, so that's been intriguing, especially with the Royals now having one of their strengths to be their bullpen. Lucas Erceg, Carlos Aceves in that 8th and 9th inning have both been absolutely dynamic. Daniel Lynch, Sean Schreiber, they're right now supplying a sub-2 ERA, so I do think that for the Royals, they do a nice job of being able to put this White Sox team on lockdown, even though Davis Martin has not been bad for this White Sox team. I remember in 2023, I believe it was, he showed some upside, might have been 2022, but that said, he was looking relatively solid there, undergoes major surgery, and thus far this season, it's a 4.52 fielding dependent compared to a 3.52 ERA, but he's holding down the fort. He's only giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, so strikeout stuff, not necessarily amazing, so it is a circumstance where I did semi-total at 8.1. I think that there's a little bit of regression for Bubic, and I do think that the Royals are able to take it out on this White Sox bullpen, so at the 8, I do like the over, and I do like the run line up to a -118 on the Royals, 961, 962 on the betting board. The Blue Jays, the Toronto Blue Jays, are on the road against the LA Angels. Jose Soriano is on the bump for the Halos, and you've got Chris Bassett taking a hook, line, and sinker for Toronto, and Toronto is a pretty sizable favorite, anywhere between -118 to a -125, anywhere between a +102 to a +108 is that number on Los Angeles. 8.5 is the total. Under is -115. Over is -105. For the Blue Jays, I'm willing to go up to a -126 on this money line. Chris Bassett has looked like a little bit of a different pitcher this season, albeit he had like 4 really good starts to the season, and he has been cratering a little bit ever since then, but still he's supplying a sub-3 ERA, 291 fielding dependent, 10 strikeouts to less than 2 walks per 9 innings, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, so he has looked very much like a better form of himself. Again, 3+ runs allowed in each out of his last 3 starts, a little bit less than savory. And for Jose Soriano, this guy has been built throughout his career around just being able to keep the ball in the yard, because this guy doesn't have necessarily the world's greatest amount of deception. Last 2 seasons, less than 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has also been issuing 3.6 walks per 9 innings, but Jose Soriano is not the guy that you're really concerned about with the LA Angels at this point. It's this bullpen that, again, allowed 2 home runs in the same inning to Riley Green last week in the same stinking inning. The LA Angels entered into the day on Wednesday with a 6.95 bullpen ERA. Not great, to say the least. And who can you look at on this Angels bullpen and feel like, oh, they could give me a good inning? Perhaps Ryan Zephyr at this point. I think he still has a sub-5 ERA, but that could be ballooning as I do this podcast. Kenley Jansen in a non-primetime spot is solid, but when you put him under the bright lights, he craters every single time, and man, this is rough with having currently Ben Joyce on the injured list for this team. Hector Neris is apparently now on the team as well. He is the lone relief piece for this team, not named Nicky Lopez, that has a sub-4.22 ERA. That's not good, to say the least, and on the flip side, you do have yourself a Toronto Blue Jays team that, I mean, it's not like the bullpen is necessarily amazing with them, but at the very least, you've got Yimi Garcia, who typically is pretty solid. We saw him have a slip-up a few days ago. Chad Green has been able to give you a sub-4.5 ERA. They've been dealing with a few injuries to the likes of Eric Swanson and company. Brandon Little has been in and out of the fold, but now they're getting him back. He's able to give you a sub-3 ERA. I also like the fact that Mason Fluharty and Jeff Hoffman have been rock solid for this team, and for the Blue Jays, it has been a struggle to be able to hit the deep ball. Anthony Santander, 5 home runs with a sub-200 batting average. That's a little bit rough. Andres Jimenez, he had 3 home runs to begin the season, and he's still stuck on 3 with a sub-200 batting average, but George Springer's giving you north of 400 base. Vlad Guerrero Jr., though he's stuck on 4 homers, he's still been able to give you that 360 on base. You need these guys at the bottom of the fold, like Alan Roden, Will Wagner, and company, to be able to pick it up a little bit more. Edison Barger, whenever he's gotten at bats, has been awful for the team, but still, I do think that for the Toronto Blue Jays, they should be able to go out there, do a solid job of taking it to an Angels team that has been very all or nothing at the plate, by the way. They've got Mike Trout out of the fold, but even when Mike Trout was in the fold, he was hitting below the Bedell line of 200. He did give the team 9 home runs, but I mean, you still have quite a bit of solid power on the team. Logan O'Hoppe, 9 bombs. He's been able to hit for darn near 290. You had Jorge Soler, Taylor Ward, a combined 13 home runs between the two of them, but neither guy's giving you north of 281 on base or a 225 or better batting average. Kyron Paris is hitting about a 215 with 5 bombs. Zach Neto has been able to give you a bit of something, but man, it's not been great, to say the least. So this is a circumstance where I did somebody total at 8.2. I think that Soriano actually gives you a relatively good start, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on this 8.5 under, and for the Blue Jays, I'm willing to lay up to a -125 on that money line. Now we'll do these 2 games together, 9-13, 9-14, along 9-17, 9-18 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers are on the road. They're facing off against the Colorado Rockies. Kyle Freeland is going to be going in game 1 for the Rocks, and Casey Mize is on the bump for Detroit. This one right now is numbers up on it. The over of 9.5 is at -115, under 9.5 is -105, and For Detroit, you're going to be finding them between minus 170 to minus 180 on the money line, between plus 150 to plus 158. That's going to be your number on the Colorado Rockies. Game 2 right now is completely TBD. We need to figure out those pitchers, but if you're looking at that Tigers run line in game number 1, you're going to be able to find that at a minus 115, and I was willing to lay up to a minus 150 on this run line. I have no faith whatsoever in the Colorado Rockies. This Rockies team is right now on pace for the fewest wins in MLB history, and rightfully so. Like, man, these guys are averaging about 4.3 runs per game at Coors. Like, Coors Field is supposed to be a cheat code for offense, and they're like league average in terms of the runs per game. Like, that's exactly what this team is doing. Jordan Beck has been able to give you 5 home runs. He hits for north of a 240, and to the credit of the team, they hit closer to about a 243 at home compared to less than the nose line of 200 on the road, because some of these guys are just absolutely awful on the road. But it's not like they've been necessarily amazing when they've been at home themselves. They've got no semblance of bullpen pitching with Victor Vodnik on the injured list. A little bit of credit to Jimmy Harrigan. He's been relatively solid in this bullpen. You've been able to get a little bit of something out of Anel Shavili as a bit of a long guy. And Zachary Ognos is not allowed to run in his 6 appearances. So, yay, verily there. But, man, this is not great to say the least. Hunter Goodman right now is giving you 5 bombs, hitting for a 275. And strangely, 4 of those home runs have come on the road. Like, I really don't get it with him, but he's been able to give you a bit of something. But Ryan McMahon, Michael Tuglia, Mickey Moniak, Sean Borchard, all these guys hitting a 205 or lower. It's just absolutely deplorable. And all of a sudden for the Detroit Tigers, this team has been a top 3 team in the American League in terms of runs per game on the road, averaging about 5.2 runs per game when they are away from home. Spencer Torkelson enters into yesterday with a 350 on base, 10 bombs. Gary Carpenter, Riley Green, 8 home runs apiece. Both of these guys hitting north of 270. Javi Baez, all of a sudden along Dylan Dingler, are both hitting above a 300. Gleyber Torres has been productive for this team and for the Detroit Tigers, dating back to the All-Star break of the 2024 campaign, a top 2 team with regards to bullpen ERA. This team does a really good job of being able to mix and match in that bullpen. You've got so many guys that are able to give you multiple innings, like a Brent Herter, and then you've got Tyler Holton, throw in there Tommy Canley, Brendan Hennefy, Will Vest, all these guys that give you a sub 275 ERA. And for Casey Mize, he is doing for a little bit of regression. His ERA hovers right around about a 271, but that fielding independent, it is a little bit closer to a 441, so do have to have a little bit of concern there. He is allowing 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. And for Kyle Freeland, he's got a 570 ERA, but actually a fielding independent that's sub 3. He's not giving up the deep ball this year. He's not a guy that's going to give up a bunch of walks, but he does not get strikeouts. He's getting fewer than 7 punch-outs per 9 innings. He's allowed at least 3 runs in each of his last 5 starts, and I think that the Tigers really pound the tar out of him here. So by total 10.2, so I'm going to be liking the over. And with the Tigers, I like that run line. And when I was looking on CBS Sports a little bit before, they were lining this up as a pitching matchup. Now, we have no idea at this point what we're going to be getting in game number 2, but if you're looking at this game of 9-17, 9-18, right now this lining up to be Cadillo Montero going up against Tanner Gordon. And if you do get this matchup, I set the Tigers at a minus 125 on the run line. I would need at least plus 185 to take a shot on the Rockies money line. And 11 or less, I'm looking at the over. 11.5 or higher, the under. I do think that Montero, in some form or capacity, probably going to be pitching for the Detroit Tigers in this one. And he's not been great, to say the least, with Cadillo Montero. It's been a very much up and down sort of season for him, as he's been giving up north of 5 ERA ever since he entered into the big league level. Not a guy that's going to give you a whole heck of a lot of deception whatsoever, as he's made 3 starts this far this season. He's up to about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but with that, he's also given up 4 home runs in 13 2/3 innings, and now he has a pitch at Coors Field, which is not necessarily so amazing. Throughout his career, 534 fielding independent, so you do have to have your issues there. And if you do indeed get Tanner Gordon for the Colorado Rockies, my God. This guy saw some starts at the big league level last year, 8 in total, and he had a 8.65 ERA, giving up a grand total of 10 bombs and 34 1/3 innings. And if you don't get Tanner Gordon, it's not going to be a whole heck of a lot better, because here's a shocker. This Colorado Rockies organization is clown shoes. They have absolutely no idea what they're doing whatsoever. So probably going to be getting high total here, 11 or less in on the over, 11.5 or higher the under. And if you do get Montero against like some form of schlub of the Colorado Rockies, we'll be looking at a minus 125 or better on that run line. We'll need at least a plus 185 to take a shot on the Colorado Rockies. And we wrap things up with 9-15, 9-16 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays play host to the Philadelphia Phillies. Jesus Luzardo is on the bump for the Phils. Ryan Pepiot is on the bump for the Rays. And the Rays, they say hip hip hoorays to being plus 110 to plus 116 underdogs, in between minus 125 to a minus 135. That number on the Phils, 8.5 is the total. Over and under, both at minus 110. And I did set my total at 8.2. I'm going to be diving in on this total total under, and I'm willing to back here Jesus Luzardo up to a -125. I set my money line price at a -126. Luzardo has just been flat out nasty for the Philadelphia Phillies. He's getting well north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. I know that he was quite a bit banged up last season, but he has come back a reborn man as he's been really keeping the ball in the yard. 1 home run allowed in 41 and 2/3 innings, .91 ERA. He's got like a 193 fielding independent. This guy has been absolutely filthy, giving up 3 earned runs or fewer in every one of his starts thus far this season. And Ryan Pepiot, to his credit, he's been pretty rock solid as well. This is a man that does have a 4.23 ERA. Fielding independent is a little bit north of 5, but he's still getting about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The big thing with him, he has to tame the deep ball. 8 home runs allowed in 38 in the 3rd innings. Last year gave up closer to 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, so I do think that he's going to round into a little bit of better form, and so I'll give it up 300 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, you know that they're going to do a good job of mixing and matching in that bullpen behind them. They've been a top 6 team all season long in terms of their bullpen ERA, as you've been able to get some really good innings out of the closer in P. Fairbanks, but additionally, guys like Garrett Clevenger, Hunter Biggie, Edwin Uceta as a long guy, they're all able to come in, they're all able to do a nice job of being able to hold down the fort. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, this continues to be a little bit of a suspect offense, so Jonathan Aranda has done a nice job of being able to find a way on base, being able to give you north of a 300 average, north of a 400 on base, and he's been able to give you 5 home runs this season. Yandy Diaz is up to 5 bombs after a rough start to the season. He's rounding into form. Cameron Misner is regressing a little bit, but he's hitting at 270. Junior Caminero is giving you 6 home runs. The big problem that you have is at the bottom of the fold, the catchers in Ben Rofit, Danny Jansen are just absolutely terrible. Jose Cabrera is not going to give you too much either. And then on the flip side, you do have a Philadelphia Phillies team that has honestly had a little bit of a problem being able to hit the deep ball, but you've got plenty of guys that are finding a way to be able to move the line, get on base. Kyle Schwarber has been the main form of offense, 12 bombs with north of 400 on base. You've got Nick Castellanos be able to hit for about a 290 down to about 4 home runs, but he's finding a way to move the line. Alec Bohm was terrible to start the season, just a 275 on base. Finally got his first home run of the season. And Max Kepler, after a rough start to the season, he's up to 5 bombs, 340 on base. Even some like a Yohan Rojas, Sumando Sosa, these guys have been able to above a 300 for you. But Bryce Harper, 240 average, 6 home runs. You just expect a little bit more out of him. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, this team has been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You got a lot of guys that are less than trustworthy, as Matt Strahm has done a really good job of coming in, holding it on the fort for this team. You know, Jose Alvarado, a sub 325 ERA. Joe Ross hasn't been too bad himself, but Orion Kerkering, Jordan Romano, Carlos Hernandez, these are all guys that have been giving you well north of 5 ERA thus far this season. So that's a little bit less than savory. That said, I think that Jesus Luzardo comes in there, shuts the door. Sub I tell it at 8.2. I like the 8.5 under, and I do like the Phillies up to a -125 on that money line. And that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM. They mean does not matter, so per usual, please just send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to on this podcast, write that 5-star review. And I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the regular season, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.